spring in Alaska, especially in the interior, where Odin and I are based, is always interesting when it comes to trails, camping, because our snow doesn't melt nearly as fast as the snow down in Anchorage or South Central in the valley. And so we're at the end of April, beginning of May, and in Fairbanks, at least around my house, there's still 2.5, almost 3 feet of snow in certain areas if it's on the north side of a hill or within the trees. But then everything that is south facing is completely melted. And so we run into similar items when we try and do trails or find our typical summer campsites, because majority of them end up going through trees in at least one location. And so the trail might look completely clear. And then you get to this one section and there's still a foot of snow. And that happened earlier today when we were heading to camp. One of the campsites that I was hoping to get around Denali National Park, trailhead looked clear. Recent satellite imagery on Onyx Off-Road looked clear. But actually getting there was a patch of snow, maybe about 10 feet long, where it was about a foot deep. And it was too much to try and plow through, especially when there were other options. So we looked at the recent satellite data on Onyx Off-Road yesterday, trying to plan out roughly where we were going to go. North of Fairbanks is still heavily covered in snow. The Denali National Park area in elevation is covered in snow. And then once you get into the broad pass or between Denali National Park, Cantwell, and then like the Houston Willow area, that has a ton of snow. So we're staying close to the interior. And the campsite we're actually going to now is not the campsite that I had originally targeted. When we looked at the satellite imagery, I found potentially a new cliffside campsite that had views straight into like Denali National Park area, not similar to the one we've already found in the area, but this one is a little bit further off the beaten track, a little bit rougher trail to get there. And as I was making my way to that trailhead, found the trail that we're actually on now. Someone had been down recently because their trap line is there. And so I saw fresh 2 tracks and said, okay, might as well try it. And I'm glad we did, because it is bringing us out right on the Nenana River. We're going to go a little bit further down, let Odin run around away from the mud. But there's already some driftwood. I brought firewood with us. Not a bad find, considering this is not where we were planning on ending up. I didn't have a great way to carry firewood this trip, so using a trash can of all things, but it kept most of the scraps and stuff, if you will, out of the truck bed, which was the hope, to just at least keep it from getting absolutely destroyed. It is absurdly windy right now, so we angled the GFC tent into the wind. This way, as the wind comes in, it's going to hit the hardtop. It'll keep the actual tent itself from flapping and making a ton of noise. And by angling it into the wind, it shouldn't affect sleep at all tonight. If anything, the roof might bow a little bit if the gusts get bad, but it's a whole lot better angled this way than if I try and get the tent into it, because then the air will come up and under in the V2 tent, or it'll start like flapping the walls, which gets annoying. Which again is why I'm glad we're low, because the campsite I was trying to get to is a couple hundred feet up on a cliff overlooking this valley. And it's very much spring. Clearly I'm in a t-shirt. Honestly, if it wasn't windy, it'd be a little warm. It's about 48, 49 degrees right now. So already t-shirt weather minus the wind. Granted, give it a couple months and 40s are gonna feel dirt cold once we get in the summer, but it's still borderline heater season. Do I absolutely need it? No. Between the hover quilt and Hest, I'd be perfectly fine. In the 30, it's going to be overnight, but since we haven't pulled the heater yet, might as well still use it. We'll probably pull everything out next week and do a full spring cleaning, if you will. Pull the heater out. I'm probably going to pull the current storage setup out as well. Just start a rebuild on it now that we're 2 years into this. It's not functioning the same way I'd want it to. And with the new power setup that I'll touch on in a second, I don't need to carry this Delta 2 anymore. And this setup is built around the 5-gallon diesel NATO can and the Delta 2 for powering the heater. So we'll get everything out, we'll set the heater up, and then I want to show you the new power because, God, it was honestly the easiest battery install I've ever done. So I still need to figure out what I want to do in the back, but after I did the Jeep walk around video plus a couple of the super cold winter camping videos, including the -40, Expion360 officially joined as a sponsor. And so I'd been running one of their 240 amp hour batteries for the last 8-9 months, if you will, and the system was designed around adding a second one, but I didn't have the money at the time to buy a second one. And then after the winter camping videos and the reviews, and I kept sending them information back and forth, they reached out and are now a sponsor of the content and gave us a second 240 amp hour Edge battery, which is the thin one. The install of that battery took less time than actually unboxing everything and getting all the parts from the post office to my house. I had this thing dropped in, installed, and cycling, charging through the Red Vision system in under 20 minutes. It was ridiculously fast. And now we've got enough power that if I really want to, I can do 3 days fully off-grid in the Arctic Circle in the middle of winter, running the heater 24/7, running Starlink 24/7, and still have enough to run the engine block heater for 4 to 5 hours. So if we're in -40, more than enough power. You wouldn't know it yet based on the sun, but it's right around 6:15, 6:30, and the wind was supposed to be died down by now. Clearly it's not, but I don't want to wait too much longer to start a fire because my hope is to get one decently going by about 9:30, 10 when the sun should start dipping and it actually gets cold, because it's still about 45, 46 degrees right now. But with the wind, it's going to be a chilly night. And so if I can get a fire going and actually get some coals, this wind should help actually make it a decent fire. But the wind's supposed to calm down overnight. We'll see. Tent's fine. I've got the heater. This fire is going to be the interesting one. And I've got a bunch of kiln-dried birch, which will catch easily, but if I can use some kiln-dried birch to get a nice base, got this piece of driftwood as a wind block. I'll use the like sticks and driftwood to actually get it going quickly, and I'll just start stacking birch in and we'll see what happens. All right, so we're going to use this, kind of our base. Get the fire starters on this, and then use the wind block to actually catch it. We're going to use a couple of these just because of how windy it is. I think 4 is more than enough, because these will definitely catch it and just... Ow, the wind's going to carry them. Like the wind is literally trying to blow my gloves away. There we go. The one really good thing about all of this wind is that this fire is already ridiculously hot. I mean, I can feel it on my face from here, a good, 6-7 feet away, and there's already a nice, oh wow, there's already a nice hot bed of coals underneath. So I'm gonna wait for the 2 longer trees with the root system to burn through the middle section, and I'm gonna flip those over, and then I'm gonna slowly feed in the rest of the firewood I brought. But thank God for the wind. That's a raging fire in 10 minutes. I'll have to put the camera on just the background, if you will, after this, but it is 9:30, which, let's see if I can't get that in focus. Yep, there you go. So it's 9:30, and this is what the sun looks like at the end of April at 9:30, and about an hour, 140-ish miles south of Fairbanks. So we are already above 16 hours a day of sunlight. But it's also now just getting warm enough to actually enjoy being outside long enough to cook. So I've got to go through my storage and figure out where my camp stove and everything is. So for tonight, it's back to jet boil and a back vacuum meal, but I got to go pull all the cooking stuff out. And you can see just a little bit of gold on the hill behind us. And then Odin's ready for bed. Let's see. And then we'll do a bag of cheese for dinner. Pretty sure bread's done. Is it in there? Yep, this one's out. Okay. All right, gonna let that sit and cook. Let this cool down, and then stoke the fire. And then I know the sun's still out, but by the time I'm done eating, it's probably about 10:30. So run a time lapse of the sun coming across, because it's basically going to move all the way across the north sky, and then will get dark as soon as we dip below those hills, but then it'll come back up. So run a time lapse for as long as my camera will work. I'd be curious to see how dark it gets, but then also what we can see with northern lights, because it's going to be clear tonight. I just don't think it's going to get dark enough, because we're 6 days past where I saw it last year. But who knows? We'll see. And in the meantime, I'm going to see if I can't burn that log down a little bit more. Morning. The wind died down a little bit overnight, probably about 11 o'clock to, I want to say about 7 a.m. this morning. It wasn't bad. It's now closer to 11 a.m. and the wind is picking back up. So Odin and I are going for a walk and sniff, of which he's doing a whole lot more sniffing than walking, which is fine. Gets his energy out. So while I eat, I want to go over some just general camera equipment. I've been helping my friends Megan and Brian, who live down in Vancouver, on some of their camera equipment. So from a video perspective, there are a couple different ways you can go. I film everything on Canon R8. It's the entry full frame mirrorless camera from Canon. You're able to get it, like I did, via Canon refurbished or B&H refurbished for anywhere from $800 to $1,000, depending on the deal you get. And I've been using this camera as my Aurora time-lapse camera, my wildlife photography camera, the video camera for YouTube. I've got no complaints against it. If I had to have a knock, it's that it doesn't have an official Canon battery grip, but you can find one from a third party on Amazon for $60. And so what used to be the concern with it on the smaller Canon batteries is battery life. I run 2 at a time. I'm able to get 4 or 5 hours photos out of it, or 2 hours of video recording on it. It'll shoot at 4K 60. It shoots in Canon log and it shoots in RAW. So from a color correction or editing standpoint, it's got everything you need. And realistically, I don't need an R5, an R6, an R3, an R1. I'd love an R3, if for nothing else other than the super high speed photo taking. My buddy Brian's got a couple R3s now, and he's able to do like 160 something frames continuous in silent shutter mode, which would be really cool to do some like slow motion stuff with Odin running. For audio, on top of the R8, I'm running a Movo Dead Cat shotgun mic that my friend Hunter sent me. And then the last couple of videos, I've been wearing a DJI mic, wireless mic 2 with Dead Cat underneath my shirt to help reduce some of the wind noise and get a better clarity on my voice. The wind literally just blew over the camera. So you don't need to go and spend tens of thousands of dollars for gear. So I'm going to finish breakfast, pack everything up, make sure Odin's good, and then we're going to head back to the road. This isn't a plug, but it's a plug. But if you have Max Tracks, you don't have a pin tool, your hands are gonna hate you. This one's from New Holland Overland in Michigan, but a bunch of companies make them. But this has saved my fingers so many times. All right, let's head out.